A 17-year-old boy reports to work, then vanishes in the middle of his shift.
It was like he completely disappeared. No trace, no nothing.
His family is mystified, and in a desperate search for answers, turns to an unlikely source for help.
I have means and capabilities of going into areas, reaching into areas that the police cannot go into.
Can detectives use a psychic's vision to catch a kidnapper? These are the true stories of real cases and the psychics who help investigators solve their most baffling mysteries. Every fall in Malvern, Arkansas, the Eford family looks forward to the start of deer hunting season. It's 2 weeks of the year when 17-year-old Tyson can spend some quality time with his parents. But one night, Tyson doesn't show up as planned.
Tyson was supposed to come down there when he got off work that night. We were in bed, but we were kind of waiting on him to get in. And we saw some headlights coming down the road. And Henry says, "That's not Tyson's truck."
The car belongs to Hot Spring County Sheriff Doyle Cook, and he's got disturbing news. Tyson's truck is still in the parking lot of the grocery store where he works, but Tyson is nowhere to be found.
His books were in the truck. His school books was there, and they wear a little apron there because he carries grocery stuff out.
Investigators find no signs of a struggle, no evidence of foul play, but enough suspicion to assemble a search team and fan out across the area looking for Tyson.
Being a teenager, you wonder right off, did he go with someone else? But knowing the boy, he wouldn't leave his pickup there and just go off and leave it.
And Anita Eford, Tyson's mother, knows that her son is not the type to just run off without telling anyone.
We never had any problems with Tyson. He always did what we asked him to do. He was responsible. He was just a good kid.
Investigators are racing against the clock. They know that the longer Tyson stays missing, the less chance they have of finding him unharmed.
After the first few hours, if they don't show up, in most cases that I've ever seen or dealt with, you're more apt to find they've been murdered.
24 hours pass, and the search grows more desperate. Henry and Anita Eford are both in law enforcement, and they vow to leave no stone unturned in the hunt for their son. But when a relative suggests consulting a psychic on the case, Anita Eford is unsure.
I was grasping at anything. Anything that I thought could help us locate him, I was going for it. I would do whatever it took to try to find out where he was.
The Efords call Little Rock psychic Carol Pate, hoping that one of her visions might lead them to their son.
I use what's known as psychometry. I work like a radio station. I fine-tune my frequency to the frequency that I'm touching, and I can get any type of information that I basically need.
Over the years, she's learned to put her skills to use. She's helped hundreds of families and law enforcement agents find answers to baffling questions.
I don't have the facilities or the means or ways of solving the case, but I can give the police a way to go, a place to look, an area or an avenue that they did not know exists.
And that's exactly what she hopes to do as she heads to Malvern to meet with Henry and Anita Eford. Investigators in Malvern, Arkansas are baffled by the disappearance of 17-year-old Tyson Eford. Detectives suspect he's been kidnapped and know that time is running out. But a psychic named Carol Pate may be able to redirect the investigation. Visions of the unknown have been haunting her since she was a little girl.
I knew things. I knew what was going to be happening. I knew when somebody was going to die. It was very, very difficult. And there was no one there to explain it to me. No one.
While the manhunt for Tyson continues round the clock, Anita and Henry Eford request a consultation with Carol.
Let me explain how I work.
Carol asks for a photograph of Tyson. And when she touches his image, she immediately feels an intense and positive energy.
The first thing that I knew beyond a question was he was still alive. That was a #1 priority.
But frightening and violent images start flooding her mind.
I felt the trauma of the abduction. I was able then to get a combination of a visual where he was taken or being taken. It was country. And I knew that he was being kept in the back of this house. It was just, there was nothing to the house. It was just flat.
Carol also gets a feeling about the kidnapper.
I realized that this man was not very bright, and that his reasoning behind the abduction was random. It was not logical.
But Henry and Anita aren't so sure it was random. Both of them are in law enforcement.
I had been a juvenile officer for like 14 years. I thought I had dealt with some pretty rough delinquents, juvenile delinquents. Henry worked drugs and homicide. A bunch of drug dealers that he had arrested. And I thought, well, maybe they took him.
Investigators at the Hot Spring County Sheriff's Department reopen every case that Henry ever worked on. But that could take weeks, and the clock is ticking.
Normally, in 3 days of a kidnapping, they either ask for a ransom, they ask for something in return, or you find a body.
Police and fire can help me.
But then a tip comes in that breathes new life into the investigation. A witness who'd been shopping at the food center that night claims to have seen Tyson struggling with another man in the parking lot.
They thought it was just horseplay, but that's when the people got him, and they got in the truck and drove off.
Detectives send a sketch artist to work with the witness. Based on her description, he draws a likeness of the kidnapper. The composite runs in the Malvern newspaper the next day, but no one recognizes the face. Another 24 hours pass without any sign of Tyson.
We just could not get any leads, but it began to look like we possibly just wasn't going to find him.
As solid leads in the investigation dwindle, the Efords turn again to psychic Carol Pate. This time, Carol conducts the reading over the phone.
Okay.
Holding Tyson's photo, she gets a vision of the abductor.
I could see the one man who was tall, skinny, cowboy boots, and I remember seeing a belt buckle.
Then she senses an immediate danger.
They were playing roulette, Russian roulette, and arguing about what they were going to do with him.
We had people at the courthouse and the sheriff's office, a number of people coming in who don't know if they could help or anything they might do. And we put flyers out everywhere with his picture and all with a reward on it. But we got no response.
Henry Eford stays on the case 24 hours a day. He spends his nights searching for his son and tracking down old snitches, hoping that they might have some inside knowledge into Tyson's disappearance. But the kidnapping remains a mystery, and another day passes without a shred of evidence.
We had hundreds and hundreds of people looking. One of the biggest manhunts that's ever occurred in Hot Spring County. And then we can't turn up nothing. I mean, nothing.
Desperate for answers, the Efords ask Carol Pate to come to Malvern one more time. They bring her to the parking lot where Tyson was last seen alive.
I wanted to feel the trauma of the energy of abduction, to get a better feel on the person that abducted him. When he took him, Tyson was traumatized. He was scared. And that leaves a strong residue of energy. And it helps me to then follow that trail of energy.
Henry and Anita Eford can only watch as the psychic describes their son's terrifying experience.
This all happened very, very quickly. He was hit in the head. He was dragged. He was put in the vehicle, blindfolded.
I was able then to get a feel of the abductor as to which way he went, plus a trail of the energy.
But then, Carol is struck with images that do not make sense to her.
The word ridge suddenly popped into my head.
Okay.
There's a ridge. What's ridge?
She kept asking me about a ridge. And I thought she was talking about a hill or a mountain or something. And then she said, no, it is a road named Ridge. And I said, yes, there's a Ridge Road.
That's where they got it. That's where they got it, Ridge Road.
They immediately head towards Ridge Road, hoping that Carol's vision will lead them to Tyson or his kidnappers. But partway down the road, the psychic trail goes cold.
I've lost it.
All of a sudden, I just went blank. I was blank. It's kind of like being a bloodhound, and you're on the scent, and you're going, and all of a sudden, there's water. No more scent.
Another dead end. And a fifth day passes. The Efords cling to a shred of hope.
There is no such thing as a perfect crime. There is some evidence somewhere, and you just got to find it.
Then, 5 days after Tyson goes missing, Sheriff Doyle Cook finally gets a break.
What did you see out there?
The caller on the other line tells Cook that he'd seen two suspicious-looking men in a pickup truck driving off Ridge Road the night before. There was a teenage boy sitting between them. Cook races to Ridge Road, desperately searching for a clue, but finds no sign of Tyson. He vows to come back the next morning with a search team, but that will never happen. 17-year-old Tyson Eford is abducted from a parking lot in Malvern, Arkansas. Investigators know that there is only a slim chance of finding him alive. But late one night, 5 days after his disappearance, the sheriff's department gets a call. Tyson Eford is alive, and he's coming home.
I happened to be home that morning. I'd went about as long as I could go without sleep. So a dispatcher called me and said that Tyson's at the hospital. He's been released. And the first thing I asked how he is, and he said, well, he's going to be all right.
But what had happened? Who had taken him? And how had he managed to escape? Tyson Eford lived to tell his own story.
I was working at Food Center, and I was approached by this man wearing camouflage, and he told me that his buddy has hit my truck. We might need to go out and look at it. We went out there, and I bent down and looked at it. He was standing behind me. He grabbed me around the throat, held a knife to my throat, and dragged me across the parking lot.
The man shoves Tyson into his pickup truck, where a second man waits behind the wheel. With Tyson as their captive, the two men speed out of the lot.
I noticed that the abductor that took me from the store was wearing camouflage and a belt buckle. I kept looking at that belt buckle to see, distinctive things that I could remember if I, could get away.
This police video shows the house where Tyson was held captive. It's just a few miles from family and friends, but impossible to escape. Held at gunpoint, Tyson took note of everything around him, including a letter addressed to a Carl Meany on Ridge Road. For the entire week, Tyson was subjected to emotional and physical torture at the hands of his captors.
Carl Meany pulled out a pistol, and I don't know let's see if I can explain this. Russian roulette. What that is you put one bullet in a chamber and you spin it. And you put it to someone's head and you click the trigger. You click like you're going to shoot them. Well, he did that 3 times. So I started crying. I was scared to death. I thought I was going to die.
And things may have ended that way had Tyson not outsmarted his captors.
I convinced him, I lied to him, to get out. I basically was trying to be his friend, trying to, convince him, look, I promise I will not say nothing. Just please let me go. You would do anything and say anything to get out of what that I was in. And I took off. I started running as fast as I could. I went on and I ran to the first house that I knew that would probably answer the door.
It was the most remarkable thing, I guess. I guess that's the word for it. There's really no words to describe how relieved I was that he was back.
After Tyson is reunited with his parents, he leads investigators back to the house on Ridge Road. When Carl Meany answers the door, police take him into custody. 1 day later, investigators track down Meany's accomplice. They are charged with rape and kidnapping. Detectives interrogate the suspects, searching for a motive. They learn that Tyson was a random target of a sexually motivated crime. After pleading guilty, the man who took Tyson from the parking lot is sentenced to 10 years. But Carl Meany stands trial.
To have to look at him was real hard. But I knew what I had to do was put this man away for good.
And he does. Carl Meany is found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Only after Tyson is found do Henry and Anita Eford reflect on their meetings with the psychic and the startling accuracy of her visions, from the fact that Tyson was alive to the description of the house where he'd been held.
She had carried us the way that he went. She'd put me within a half a mile of the house. She talked about a belt buckle that one of the boys wore. She talked about the Russian roulette that they played. And there was just numerous of things that she had talked about. Of course, at that time, we didn't know it was true. Then after the case developed, all of this was true. It really made you, how you put it, cold chills run up down your back.
It's like some cases that I work on, I don't get that much. It's almost like it should be somebody else's case. And other cases, I get all this detail, and it blows me away. I don't know why. Why all this detail on this case and not on this case, and why does this case resolve and this one doesn't? And I think it's all in the timing. I think everything happens for a reason.